Right. Oh, cool. That sounds different. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the annual general meeting of the UK Python Association. This is a charity that was registered last year, so we've been running about 18 months now. And the trustees of that charity are the good people you see sitting alongside me here and me. I would like to get through the business of this AGM as swiftly as possible. If we can do that, it extends the length of time we have for lightning talks. So we do have some business that we must conduct, but I'm keen to get that done as swiftly as possible. So, first of all, we are required to conduct a review of the year. Now, our financial year ends in March. So this is a review of the year that ended on the 31st of March 2018. Now, there is a formal document that we have to prepare and send to the Charity Commission. It is here and it's published online. If anybody wishes to see it, they are welcome to do so. Come and talk to me afterwards. What I'd like to do today is simply talk you through what's in there. So, and also, we are required to give you a financial statement of how things stood at the end of March. That's really easy. We had no bank account. Therefore, we had received zero income. We had incurred zero expenditure. We owned £0 worth of assets, and we had incurred zero liabilities. We don't even bother having a document for that one. The contents of that report. There are a number of mandatory policies which we are required to have, and because we were starting from scratch, we didn't have them. They cover things like how we are governed, how our risk policies are, what risks we think exist, and what we're going to do about them. So there are a number of detailed mandatory policies which we've had to spend some time and effort putting together. Again, they are written in here. If anybody wishes to see them in detail, come and speak to me afterwards. We had to define our financial year end. It's the end of March. We managed to open a bank account. You would not believe how much of a challenge that turned out to be. But let's just say it's significant enough to have made its way onto the report. And strictly speaking, this didn't get done in time for the end of March, but I'm going to tell you anyway, we have now managed to register ourselves with HMRC, and we have gift aid up and running, so we can now take donations, and we have a bank account to put them into. Again, you would not believe quite how long that took, but we are there now. So the next steps, the things that we have been working on since and will do over the next 12 months. At the moment, we can take donations and we can claim gift aid on those, but hand on heart, we don't have any processes in place to be able to spend those funds. So we don't yet have the means by which you might apply to use those. So we are working hard to get that done as swiftly as possible. The very first one that we want to do is to run the financial aid program for the 2019 conference out of the charity. We're not quite there yet, but that's the first one on the hit list, and we do have some others that we would like to be able to do soon. We think that we would like to set up a subsidiary trading company for the running of this conference. So we are in the middle of taking legal advice on that right now. We don't yet have the go-ahead, but it's looking highly likely. That is so that we can make sure that if this conference failed, the assets of the charity are not put at risk. And there are also some VAT implications that make it attractive for us to do that as well. So we are hoping in the next 12 months or so to have that subsidiary trading company up and running and to move the operation of the conference into that company from where it stands at the moment. We are in discussion right now, in fact I've had a response today and I haven't read it yet, with the Python Software Foundation. There are some opportunities, we think, now that we are a registered charity, to be able to take some funds from the US from the Python Software Foundation into our funds for us to distribute and use within the UK as we see fit. And there are some other opportunities for things that we might be able to do as well. So we are in the middle of the discussions with them as to how we might go about that. Judging by the email I received today, I suspect we'll see some progress on that fairly shortly. And finally, some of you are members of the UK Python Association. You will have had a little button when you signed up for your ticket to say whether or not you wanted to be. And if you look closely, right down in the bottom, if you are a member, you will have our logo on your ticket. Our logo is the beautiful one in the top left-hand corner of the slide, designed by Kirk. And what a fine job he did. Doesn't only draw snakes. So, if you are a member, you are eligible to vote in the things that we will be voting on in a minute. If you're not a member, you are more than welcome to be here, but please don't take part in the vote. So, the things that we need to do, we have some changes that we would like to make to our constitution. So I know you will all have this close to your heart and have read it as many times as I have, and I won't need to explain these, but I'm going to do it anyway. First of all, I should explain where our constitution came from. The Charity Commission publishes a standard document which you can use as your starting point to register a new charity. And we did precisely that because it's the easiest way to get it done. But where we had some choice in the matter, we took the constitution of the previous PyCon Society and we made its wording fit into the document as closely as the Charity Commission would allow us to do. So that's where our constitution came from. We as trustees have some changes that we would like to make to it. In order to do that, we first of all need your permission. If we get that today, we then need to seek the Charity Commission's permission. So even if you say yes today, it isn't yet a guarantee that our constitution will change, but it's highly unlikely not to be accepted. So the changes that we would like to make, well, first of all, we have a logo now. We'd like to put it on our constitution. Secondly, we found some errors in it. It's a LaTeX document. It uses cross-references. Of course it's got errors in it. If you're particularly interested, they're in section 13 and they're a complete mess. So the cross-references in section 13 are not right and we'd like to correct them. Thirdly, as I said, this was a standard document from the Charity Commission and we just took it. And it uses some gendered language throughout. It talks about he and it talks about she, and we'd like to put that right. So Alex, Chan, and one or two others have kindly gone through the document looking for all those occurrences, and they've put a pull request together for us. Our constitution lives on GitHub for anybody to see. And so there is a set of changes there where we are simply changing the occurrences of all of the gender-specific language that exists in there and replacing it with something more neutral. And then finally, the big one. We would like to change our charitable objective, the reason that the charity exists in the first place. And this one I am going to read to you because it's important. Our original objective was, and I quote, I should have brought my glasses, to advance education for the public benefit in the use and understanding of the Python programming language within the UK by organizing, presenting, and promoting Python-related conferences, meetings, and events at venues in the UK. Now that wording is a combination of what the Charity Commission wants to see and what was in the original PyCon UK Society constitution. We have found during the course of the year that the bit that says within the UK, at venues in the UK, is a restriction upon us. We have had one example, we have had more than one example last year of where we might have wanted to have funded somebody going to a PyCon abroad. We couldn't because we had no money, but it made us realize that if that comes along slightly later, actually we would have had to have said no, even though as trustees we all agreed it was precisely the sort of thing that we'd like to see happening. So we want to remove that restriction. So our wording we would like to become to advance education for the public benefit in the use and understanding of the Python programming language within the UK. So we want to remove the restriction that it must be at venues in the UK. We want it purely to be for the benefit of the Python community in the UK. And if that means funding somebody to go somewhere else, it frees us up to do it. So, to do those changes, we need your permission. I'd like to move to a vote to do that, unless there is any objection from the floor to me doing so. I'm going to check before I answer that. Yes. So we have removed the fact that it must be events within the UK, and we've simply said that we are looking to promote the understanding of Python programming language within the UK, essentially by whatever means we see fit. So, yes. Right. Sorry, yes? Quite possibly, yes. And we'll just come back here and do it. And we'll put up with it in the meantime. So I'd like to do this by a simple show of hands. So could I have a show of hands from members of anybody who is in favour of making the changes to the Constitution that we've proposed? Thank you. And could I have a show of hands from anybody who objects? I think we can record that as a unanimous vote. Thank you very much indeed. We are nearly done, I promise. We move on to the final piece of business, which is elections. Our Constitution requires that a third of our elected trustees must resign at each AGM, so that nobody can sit here for life. And the way that's done is whoever's been in there the longest has to resign. If that is more than a third, then they just agree amongst themselves, either by fighting or drawing lots. So this year, the two candidates who are resigning are Peter and Christian. So that gives us 2 vacancies which we need to fill by election. Actually, we have 3 because during the course of the year, one of our trustees resigned. So we are allowed a maximum of 6 elected trustees. We have 2 resignations which we have to make now, and we had one occur earlier in the year. So we have 3 vacancies. I'm delighted to say, because it makes my life easier, that we had precisely 3 candidates put themselves up for election. So I'd like to introduce them to you briefly, just so that you know they're real people. Firstly, Christian would like to put himself up for re-election to the Board of Trustees. And then we have Tanya, who I can't see. If you could come forward and just come and stand on the stage, Tanya, so everybody can see you. And Cecilia. Aha, look at that, prepared, sitting at the front. So if you could just stand for a moment, the 3 of you. And again, because there are 3 positions and 3 to fill, I'd like to do this with a simple show of hands. So could I have a show of hands for everybody who is in favour of electing Christian to the Board of Trustees? Thank you. And anybody who is against that idea? There you are, mate. There's no escape. Fantastic. And the same again, anybody who is in favour of Cecilia being elected to the Board of Trustees? Thank you. And anybody against? You're on for life as well, by the looks of it. And finally, for Tanya, could I have a show of hands for everybody who is in favour of electing Tanya to the Board of Trustees? And anybody against? Wonderful. Thank you very much indeed. I believe. Boom, 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 boom. Right. See, I told you I wouldn't make you give a talk. Finally, as I said earlier, we can now accept donations, and we can claim gift aid on those donations. And we have some links for doing so. Please do not share those links outside of here. What I need to make clear is anybody in this room who understands that if you donate to us right now, you are simply putting money in our bank account that we intend to be able to spend during the course of the year. We're not actually in a position to be able to use that money right now. So the fact that you understand this means that we can take a donation from you. As time goes on, we can take donations publicly, but right now we're not in a position to be able to do that. So for those of you who wish, those are the links to follow. If you wish to make a donation using those, we'd be delighted to take it. You'll find all the gift aid stuff on there. I just ask that you don't publicize those. We will do so when we're good and ready. And I'm glancing over at my fellow trustees to see if I've forgotten anything. And I reckon we're done in 15 minutes unless there is any further business from the floor that is suitable for an annual general meeting. Marvelous. We get a bit of extra time for the lightning talks. Thank you, everybody. See you again next year.